a digital TV, please press the menu button on the remote control and run a new search on your TV. Take note that without an antenna, you cannot access City TV on your television. City TV can be accessed on a free-to-air digital box like the Go TV and Star Times box. City TV, it's your world.
Imagine if you can get all the understanding on some of the difficult subjects you struggle with in school. As a student, do you feel dissatisfied with how hard it is to figure out the subject you're learning? Or as a parent or guardian, do you worry that your child is struggling to understand some of the subjects in school? Well, now you don't need to sign up for extra lessons or tutors. Simply tune in to Class Act, Mondays to Thursdays at 5.
Welcome back to the Big Issue. Good morning to our viewers on television. We are discussing the selection of Professor Nana Opoku-Agyeman by former President John Dramani Mahama as his running mate for the upcoming election in December. And if you have a contribution on that, 0550-585832, 0550-585832, or 0549-986-996, the WhatsApp lines. And you can also send us a message on Twitter at City973, hashtag the big issue, or myself at East Sportsman, Godfred Akoto Boafo at East Sportsman, on the same hashtag at the big issue. We're also streaming live on Facebook, on our Facebook pages, City TV and 97.3 City FM. So you can leave your comments. And I'm doing the show this morning with Pius Hajide. He will speak after this. Franklin Kujo, President of Imani Africa, he has the floor. Nipako Samwado has been heard, and Dr. Nansata Yakubu, development consultant, was our first speaker. They're all still on the show. They'll get a second round. Yes, Franklin, I am coming back to you. Take it away.
Right. Well, as I was saying, that the virtues of women notwithstanding, as backbreakers dealing with poverty in agriculture, and even in poverty in governance, I was relating the fact that as of 2016, Ghana's position when it came to the Interparliamentary Union, I've forgotten the particular name, but there's something like that, which measures the percentage of women in parliament. Ghana had a time of doing about 11% in governance, and our position was 150th out of 193 countries. I don't think it's significantly shifted from that position yet. In fact, to define the particular point I'm making, is the reason why our own president, Nana, elected for himself as a he-she president. I think it's she-he. I mean, usually the S is slash forwarded, and then there's an HE, which meant that we cannot treat it as tokenism any longer, the role of women. In fact, they are human beings to start off with. And they are the definitive, as I said, harbingers of, absorbing us from poverty as mankind. So for me, the conversation should now move to the competences of the person that has been appointed. And as I've said already, I do not see why she's not competent. I think she's very competent. I liken her role at the university as someone who needs to listen to all the disciplines in the university. And you know how many disciplines are in the university?
Several, yeah.
Without think that she can't handle an economic management team because she's not an economist is far-fetched and quite frankly silly. Because what it means is that she needs to have the presence of mind which she's had invested in over 30 years of experience to be able to have that type of meeting and listen to all minds. Some of us have said at the Mani that the only way you need to have the cabinet deliver is to have some assessor general of sorts that looks at the competencies that are presented in cabinet Because sometimes cabinet do not possess all the competencies, which is the reason why there's an economic management team, which does not only rely only on economists per se. So you can have a mathematical model on how to develop a country, but the mathematical model must have a human face. It must have something to do with education, something to do with agriculture, something to do with basic skills, entrepreneurship. So the whole gamut of what I'm asking and I'm suggesting is that you have a panoply of ideas that must necessarily form a sound basis for governance. That cannot be within the sole repository of a single person. For the leader is the one who listens, assembles minds that are competent, and as I've said not too long ago, a good leader is one who assembles persons who are far smarter than himself or herself to do the work. I'll leave it here.
All right. Thank you very much, Franklin Kujo. We'll come back and look at a couple of other issues in the second round, and then we can move to other parts of the conversation. Parasana Machide is Deputy Information Minister. And like Liverpool said, the first thing your party did 5 minutes after the announcement was to organize a press conference and basically say you are going to take care on her political record as Minister of Education. And you spent the whole week doing that. Did you send a congratulatory message?
Yeah, thank you very much, my brother. Good morning to you, my colleagues, and our cherished viewers and listeners. Yes, we did send a congratulatory message to the NDC and to especially Professor Nana Opukwu-Agyeman. And even now, I'd like to congratulate her again and to wish her well. But I think that the end is pretty much predictable. It has been long in coming, but I hold the view that the wait has not been worth it.
Oh, really?
And I think that the two major political parties in this country have very accomplished running mates in their own rights, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia and now Professor Nana. Both of them clearly accomplished academics, of course, PhD holders in diverse background, one in economics, the other in English and French. Yeah. And so they both are quite clearly very, very accomplished personalities, and there's no doubt about that. But I think that Professor's addition to the John Mahama ticket really adds very little value to the ticket, and I will come back to expatiate on it. I think that the people of Ghana will make that choice between competence, which is on the side of the NPP, and what clearly has been incompetent on the part of the NDC. The good professor has been a part of this same team that was roundly rejected by the good people of Ghana by large numbers of votes, almost 1 million votes. And so this is nothing new. I see a desperate attempt on the part of our colleagues in the NDC to rather want to focus on selling the good professor's womanness. I think maybe...
But it is important.
No, I think that's a reflection of a lack of track record. Because the womanness...
Politically,
me,
you mean?
The womanness of a candidate does not offer the solutions that we are desirous of. It does not.
Okay.
So it is about your competencies, it is about your track record. But I'm surprised that the attempt and the focus has been to sell her womanness. She's a woman. And also an attempt to sell something new. It's not happened before, which is actually factually incorrect.
But it does say that.
As far back, oh yes, and you have listened to all the narrative, even in my brother Nipa's
straightforward
presentation. He kept saying that something
he did not say
new,
she was the first.
Something new has happened, hasn't happened before. As far back as 1992, Professor Sachi Few was a running mate.
Yeah, but we know that now, Fale,
so,
the whole
absolutely.
list.
So let me go on through. So there's nothing new about it. In fact, look, by 2012, the CPP's Dr. Abu Sakara had a woman as a running mate.
Certainly.
And CPP is not a small political party. They have actually also had occasion to govern this country before.
Let's not sell dreams. The CPP has not been strong since Nkrumah.
Well, my attitude is to respect all political parties and accord them equal place of pride.
But electoral numbers don't lie. When you enter an election and leave with 0.6%, you cannot consider you a strong political party.
Those parties have affected runoffs in this country.
We know.
So let me establish that. Okay. Factually speaking, if it was about womanness, if it was about womanness, the argument I'm making is that if it was about womanness,
they've done that.
These small political parties, a woman could have propelled them up. So it is not essentially for me about whether you are a man or a woman. Okay? It is more about your track record and your competencies. Maybe that is why, even though people attempted to contest as flag bearers, even on the ticket of the NDC, they were rejected. Dr. Konedu, for instance, attempted to be flag bearer of the NDC. If it was about just womanness, why didn't they allow her? But they argued about competencies and they argued about track record. And so, for me, that argument, one, is not new. Number two, this same NDC had the opportunity to even elevate a woman to a higher position. The person who is now talking to us about letting women take their place in his own time, and I'm talking about former President Mr. Mahama, he's now saying that he has decided that it is now the time to let women take their place, as though women are some pawn in his chess game, so he can decide when it is time for a woman to rise and when it is not time for a woman to rise. And I think it's a statement that is very derogatory to Ghanaian women. The Ghanaian woman is a competent woman at heart who is capable of rising to the top without let or hindrance. And so it is not for one individual to decide that, well, this is the time that you can come up. Yesterday was not the time. Tomorrow may not be the time. No. And so, for me, the argument is that this is not new. In fact, in contemporary history, we in the MPP, out of respect for women and recognizing that women actually deserve specialized attention, we created a ministry for women development in this country. We appointed, for instance, the first female Chief Justice. Today, under the able leadership of Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, the first female chief of staff that Ghana has produced is at post. And if you are talking about governance structure and the practicalities in governing our country, I would suggest to you that the role of the chief of staff is enormous in assisting the president to run his affairs. In fact, we have had cases where vice presidents have complained that they are not being allowed to function. We haven't had any chief of staff complain. In the last administration, people have argued that the chief of staff, Mr. Julius Debra, was more prominent in the affairs of state than the vice president, Park Mr. Atta. So right now we have in office a first female chief of staff.
Who's also very prominent.
Yes, absolutely. This president has appointed more women than, for instance, ministers and deputy ministers, than, for instance, Mr. Mahama, when he also had the opportunity to appoint. So this argument about women, for me, is not, women should not be treated like an afterthought, like a tool to be used to enhance one's political fortune, and when the goods are delivered, when the spoils of war arrive, then you decide that women are no longer relevant. Since when did Mr. Mahama realize that women are important, and why did he not support the candidature of Madam Dr. Konedu Admirolis for flag bearer? And why did he not appoint more women, like Nana Akufo-Addo has now done? We in the MPP, and I'm happy about something, I think the doctor you spoke, she said that it is about the institutional arrangements. And it is because those institutional arrangements exist in the MPP. That is why when you go to Parliament today, out of the 36 members of Parliament who are female, 24 are members of the MPP. Apparently 12 are members of the NDC. So you cannot argue in the face of all the evidence on the ground. You cannot argue that the NDC is a more pro-women party than the MPP. You cannot say that. And you see, for me, one of the major dents on the good professor's womanness was her endorsement of the misconduct of the Muntie trial. When women were threatened with rape and murder, and the law caught with them, the woman who today we are all being told she's a woman, the mother figure, she has this, that. She endorsed that move by appending her signature to ask for the release of the culprits, people who threatened rape and murder of women, equally in high places too. For me, it was a low moment. And I think that, look, she has an opportunity to now apologize to the people of Ghana and maybe to explain that she was coerced, she was forced, which will also speak to her independence, which will also speak to her integrity. But the right thing is that a wrong was committed. Now, Nipako talks about visionary leadership. Oh, okay, so nominating a female for running mate is visionary leadership in 2020. How about nominating Pakwese Mitata after a man in 2016 as running mate? Lack of vision? I think that we should be consistent. And we shouldn't count on, I'm surprised, and maybe I'm not surprised because our colleagues in the NDC will always argue that, Ghanaians have short memory. Just 4 years ago, your running mate was a man. In fact, before then, in 2012, it was a man who contested with you, and then you won as president. So is the argument now that those actions were a reflection of lack of vision or what? Is that what we are being told? Now, again, Nana Akufo-Addo, you know, the United Nations Commission for Africa has conferred on him a gender champion. In recognition for the practical, realistic things that he's doing in the interest of women.
So, since you've gone there, let me ask you this, Pius. Since you've gone there and you have,
and I went there because Nipako brought in the president who spoke about women dynamism.
Because we can attribute. Don't worry. We can attribute. One would say an optical version of what you people do with appointments, because the affirmative action bill is in your manifesto, is it not?
It is.
Why has it not been passed? That is, like Dr. Nansate Yakubu said, the single most important institutional move that any government can make.
Yeah.
You've been hiding behind it for 3.5 years now. You promised to pass it within 1 year.
Yeah. And I actually have it in my notes.
Okay, then
if you check, it
hasn't been passed. If it's your notes, it hasn't been passed.
I'll address that. Okay.
So we can say MPP and NDC, both of you are
we have been in power.
Playing politics
with it for 3 years. Mr. Mahama has been in power for at least 8 years.
None of you passed it.
So we will get to those. And so the point I'm making before I come to that one is that my reading is that the NDC wanted to run from economic management because they themselves can admit to how competently His Excellency Nana Akufo-Addo and Dr. Bawumia have managed the economy. And it was their wish that, let us not make the campaign about the economy. And so they want to make something else the discussion.
But you cannot choose their theme for them.
So they went for education.
Which is important.
I agree.
You won the election on education.
I agree. But they have just jumped from frying pan to fire. Even though economy is at the base, every other thing is a function of the economy.
Well, that is an assumption.
Okay. No, if you cannot afford free SHS, you cannot do free SHS. If you cannot afford allowances, like the NDC could not afford allowances, they will cancel it. If you don't have the money, the economy is not good, you cannot be able to buy chalk. And you recall that under her watch as Minister for Education, even chalk for classroom work was in short supply to the extent that teachers had to go to individuals, including the wife of the former president, to ask the former vice president, Pakwese Mitata, to ask for chalk donations under her watch. If the economy was not functioning properly, you will run into arrears with capitation grant. You bought buses for schools, you haven't paid for it because there was no money to pay for it. You have cancelled allowances. Your teacher salaries were in arrears. funds to schools with special interests, like School for the Deaf and the Blind. All of these were owed. They were in arrest, according to the good professor herself, in her handing over notes, which are a matter of public record. So all of this is a function of the economy. And that is why I've said that Professor Nana Jenopokwajiman failed woefully at the ministry, but you cannot blame her alone. It was because, like Dr. Bawumia said, you can be a professor, you can be a woman, you could have been a vice chancellor, you could actually even have been the general secretary of the United Nations. But if you come and partner an incompetent presidential candidate, an incompetent president, who has no clue what to do to be able to develop a country and grow an economy that is able to sustain some of the policy interventions that you may have even dreamed of, you will become minister or you will become vice president and the country will collapse on your head. So for me, whether it's a man or a woman, I think that the John Mahama brand is irreparable. It's damaged beyond repairs. The records on the ground are such that nobody, whether a man, whether a woman, whether a professor, a doctor, can help repair the damage to the brand. And when my brother Nick Papo spoke, again because the whole idea was to make the womanness of professor an issue, he went and misled our viewers and listeners and made claims which are not factual.
Let's hear your rebuttal and then we can decide whether it was misled.
You misled.
Please, I respectfully. You said a lot of things that I would not, but I've never gone on the tangent.
But misled is not insulting.
No, it's not. Oh, all right. If you tell me that I mislead people, it's not fair. It's not a fair statement.
Okay, what should I say?
You and I have a good rapport, so I don't want to. And that's why I say I don't attack you.
You can rebut the point.
My facts.
I find what he said to be misleading.
So explain why you think it is so.
Because, for instance, in the case of the majority leader never said that because Professor Jane Nana Upokwajiman is a woman, she cannot stand in the stead of a president.
He didn't say that.
He never said that. He said that. He never said that. And listen to me. He never said that because Professor is a woman. Because in fact, he made the point that he would have preferred other women. So it was a choice between women for her. So she said, for instance, that she believes that Betty Moldidusu would have made a better vice president. And mentioned some other woman. So it is not the question of, like he tried to create the impression that, oh, because Professor is a woman, because Betty Moldidusu is she a man?
You see, this is about our reputations on the line.
Go on.
You understand? These are about our reputations on the line. This video is on YouTube, it's available. I will plead with your producers. Play the voice of the video of
Don't worry,
you have put a direct challenge to my reputation.
It's always easy to clear these things up. Don't worry.
Please play the tape.
I will clear this matter up.
Thank you.
Don't worry. Go on.
You see?
Please go on.
So it is never true. And he said that because he is a woman, he cannot take the place of a president.
Let him be very clear about what he said.
Yes, I'm saying that.
Yes, he never said it.
He said that he would have preferred another woman.
But I made a statement. I said, he said she will not be able to act.
Because you added that because she's a woman.
Yes, he said it.
He didn't say that.
Okay.
If he said that, he couldn't have gone for Betty Mold. Is Betty Mold a man?
Please.
So let's be truthful.
We'll clear this thing up. Let's not go back and forth.
You see,
let's go.
Bro,
Continue.
this attempt is just an agenda to
I hope you go
push
to the wound to me.
to push. No, please don't worry. I'm saying for me, these are not the issues that we should be
Are
discussing
you
on a
denying
serious
what wound to me
platform
also
like this.
said? Are you denying what wound to me also
Why
said?
don't you spend any time to talk about her
No, but
track
are you
record?
denying what wound to me
Why
said?
don't you spend any time to
Wound
talk
to me,
about
wound to me made also a statement. He said she was a witch.
I need to
Are
be
you
protected,
denying that
though.
one?
I need to
You
be protected.
cannot tell
Sorry,
him what to focus on and what not to focus on.
I apologize.
Nipapo, you cannot tell him what
Since
to
he
focus
says
on.
I'm misleading, I was hoping all the others to they will be challenging them. Then we play all of them.
He will focus on what he wants to focus on.
Thank you. Pius, forgive me.
So you see, we cannot be gagged from discussing Professor Jane's track record because she's a woman. In fact, that would be unfair to her and unfair to the people. She must be discussed. The people must appreciate her capacities
You have 2
and
minutes.
and her qualities.
You have 2 minutes.
But I'm suggesting to our colleagues in the NDC that let us focus on the good professor's track record and her achievements and accomplishments, both at the university where she was vice chancellor, and I went to that university. And you ask a lot of the
Was she your
alumni.
VC?
Yes, she was my VC.
She'll be proud of you.
Okay, but I'm saying that if you ask a lot of the alumni of UCC,
She was incompetent.
the vice chancellors who would come to mind would readily not be professor. Maybe somebody
Are you
like
sure?
Ado Being, or Professor Japo, or maybe Professor Kupoli, who
Pius,
finished.
don't go there.
So
Pius,
yeah,
don't
but
go
that's-
there.
oh, but I went to the school. You didn't go to UCC.
No, but I
went
have
to UCC.
we've heard people from UCC too.
But I
Don't
went
go
to
there.
UCC.
Don't go there.
So the point is that for me,
Yes.
if she had such a fantastic record in UCC, let's discuss that one. It's not about her being a witch. She cannot be a witch. How
Was
is
it
she a
said?
witch?
Was it said?
How
No,
can
was
she
it
be a
said?
witch?
No, what she said.
How can she be a
No,
witch?
the original
I'm not even going to allow.
Yeah.
Listen, let me make it
serious.
straight. I am not going to allow Chairman Won to me
Yeah.
comments to be discussed about
Absolutely.
platform.
Fine. But
Yeah.
it is not that they are not true.
I'm just
No,
saying.
we-
I
I'm
don't
saying
want.
the
I don't
one
want
that
reference
died.
made to it
Okay.
in any context on this platform. They are not worth being heard on
Of
my
course.
platform.
But it was said. And it's important.
No, you have been invited to
Pius,
elevate the discussion.
Your
And you
time
keep
is
taking all my
your time is gone.
Oh, you see, if you do this, then I have a problem. So in
You don't
conclusion-
have a problem.
So in conclusion,
Okay,
you see,
conclude.
And
I want to talk to Dr. Yakubu.
Ni Papo made a revealing statement here.
Really?
Very revealing, and we should pay attention to it.
What did he say?
Today, if you go across the country, the NDC rank and file, their base is demoralized. I come from the Volta region. The mood in the Volta region is one of disappointment. You see, and you look around and see, and compare the razzmatazz that would normally occasion the appointment of a running mate. We'll go back when Dr. Mahmoud Baumia, for instance, was nominated
In 2008?
In 2008, check the razzmatazz. Check the past.
Stop. There was no razzmatazz. We were here. There was no razzmatazz. There was no razzmatazz.
You check. Let me finish. So, let's check.
I don't have to check. I was here.
And you see,
I'm still working in journalism.
the revealing position of Nick Pakpo is that President Mahama wants somebody who does not have his or her eyes on the ball. It tells you
Ball?
the ball,
What
the
ball?
presidency. So it tells you that Mr. Mahama knows that as for 2020, it's gone. He cannot win.
Come on, look at the context.
He doesn't want.
It's not that the correct
But he
context.
doesn't want somebody who will feel that he has been marketed to attempt a comeback
How?
in 2024.
After the person has won a second term, what are you talking about?
No, I'm saying he's going to lose the 2024.
Then you put your own case
He's
down.
prepared. That's what
Put
you
your
said.
own case-
That's what you said, that he doesn't want somebody who has his eyes on the ball. If
But
you
can't explain this context.
I mean, what
It's
are you
okay.
talking
if you are
about?
not going to run again,
Gentlemen,
if
it's
you are not
okay.
going- if you are not going to run again.
Election, what? I mean, the logic
Gentlemen,
behind
it's okay.
No.
Gentlemen,
No, it is rather your
Gentlemen.
Where's the logic? If you said
Gentlemen.
that the person has won an
Nick
election,
Papo.
No.
and after winning an election,
Nick
his
Papo.
vice is not interested, then you said that
No.
Please,
See,
gentlemen,
your logic
it's
doesn't
okay.
hold.
It's okay.
Your logic
Your
doesn't
time has
hold.
elapsed.
His
Your-
logic cannot
Pius,
hold because
your time has
if the
elapsed.
man has gone for his last step,
Honorable
won an
Ajide,
election.
oh, if you
Nick
allow me,
Papo,
the man keeps eating into my
time
time.
has elapsed for both of you. Let me go on then back to Zoom now. Pius, thank you very much.
Yeah, mischief.
And speak to Dr. Nansata. Dr. Yakubu, are you still there?
I think it's off.
Hello, Dr. Yakubu.
Yes.
Aha. So let's. I'm coming to you on a different leg, and Honorable Pius Ajide makes. Let's do a bit of political analysis now. Honorable Pius Ajide makes quite an interesting point about the selection pointing to education being the key in this one, based on the background of Professor Nana Opoku-Agyeman? Is this something that you see, that a significant shift from the economy conversation to let's have a conversation about the one policy that won the MPP the election, the free SHS and the education sector?
Well, this is interesting because I think what we have agreed is that you can't box everything and relate it to just one thing. There are several layers to the reason why she might have been, and there could be the strategy for them to use education. And we all know that is a ministry that the reforms for education in this country dating back. We are still trying every year. We try to add value to try to see how we are going to push it forward. And indeed, the free SHS has become a national policy. So, in as much as it's the current government that has instituted it, yes, that could be something that the opposition could say, okay, when we come, we're going to add value to it in these other ways. But the dynamics of the free SHS itself, when you unpack it, I don't think it's actually any one political party's trump card or anything to speak about. Implementing it, yes, it demands a lot of boldness and a lot of courage, as the current government has shown by implementing it. But another party coming on and saying we're going to do something else for the party, and does that. What is exceptionally true of her candidature is the fact that we all know changes. I mean, that what you have to change is what is constant. Every time there's a new dictate, there is a changing political context. We can't have the same thing year in, year out. For the MPP itself, even to go to the polls in December, they are not coming to say the same things. They are coming to build on what they have done and to indeed introduce new areas that they will be pursuing if elected come December 7th. So there's a changing political context. Okay. And the changing political context demands that you choose different people that will support that. Now, for the NDC, the opportunity was clear because they didn't have the contradiction of maybe not letting the person who served as a vice president come back in because of his unfortunate demise. So it was an open road for them to try to look at things differently. And they did just that. As to what they will be presenting, they have just put in the education because it is a political strategy to try to locate the arguments for her candidature. And I'm afraid to say that the ruling party has fell for it straight on. They are dictating the agenda now for why she was, selected. We need to see new arguments. We have to see an increased pitch in the arguments of the ruling party. You don't have to always go to your opponent's argument, because your opponent is the one that has put this out there. So that's what we are talking about. What else do they have to say? We are looking at a pitch that will look at an increased argument, not increasing their voices. It is not the screaming and the gesticulating that will get the attention of people. It is indeed the depth of it. Don't let your opponent set the agenda, because now day in, day out, since she was selected, I mean, for me, it's even disappointing. I'm not getting much to read about, because everybody else and more, 90% of people in MPP are even speaking more about their candidature than people in the NDC. So it already tells you that you are this political discomfort to you, and you are making it very obvious. We need to see coherence in their argument. We need to see them bringing cogent issues for us to discuss. Let's not raise our pitch. This is a time, as Franklin said, also sober reflection. People are looking for a new kind of politics. Let's see it as a political landscape is changing. If you look around the country today, it's not normal for everybody. Everybody is trying to adjust. People are thinking about the price of cake and the price of bread. We don't want to come and be hearing this thing, pedestrian arguments of who is a woman, is a woman, you did that, you didn't do that. The woman has lived her life and worked in government for how many years? How many vice presidents even did anything in government before the war happened? Is it because she's a woman? We have a lot of men who have been selected as vice president by acclamations, by whatever. They have not even worked within government. So are we going to say that they didn't do something that you didn't have an issue with? And it's also so expected. Everybody expected the ruling party to be behaving the same way that they are behaving. Incoherent, quickly saying things. Let's not say things now that will come back, to haunt us as we ourselves chart a path, towards the pool. Let's look at things reflectively. If this were your political candidate, what would you do? This is not yours. They have caused you political discomfort. Straight on, let's get into the issues. But trying to attack people's personalities, and it doesn't serve, a very good purpose. I think that if you say policy, education, and education is your trumpet, then you are even giving your opponents an opportunity to go and attack what is not working well within your own policy. So don't let them set the agenda. Look at other things. There are other policy issues. There are other ones that you can also bring on, and then we can have a very lively, and interesting campaign, as indeed she has already caused by being nominated.
Okay, I have a few more questions for you. There are those who say, and let me ask this from a perspective of a woman, do you think that her nomination will change the way we carry out our campaigns and politics? Should it change? Because there are those who say, well, once you are off politics, certain things cannot be said to you or about you. But once you venture into it, the nature of what happens in our system is that we can see certain things about you and how you operate. So you are right now very much in the spotlight. Should she be handled differently because she's a woman?
No. And indeed, women have never been handled differently. Look, let me tell you, I'm a woman, and dismantling patriarchy, you have no idea what that means. Dismantling patriarchy takes tons and tons of people, and indeed men as allies. We have lived, in a system. It goes back to the debate of what it means to be black. You have to ask yourself, have I even ever considered what it means to be a woman? From visiting a gynecologist, my sister, my brother, to being in the classroom, it is no mean. The streets out there have never been very friendly for women. There are women who even walk down the street because when you get raped, somebody else is going to say you were attracting it because you were wearing a tight trousers. Meanwhile, the trousers he is wearing is showing all his stuff, and you couldn't rape him. Dismantling patriarchy and misogyny, we have lived with it all through our lives. We are talking about a prof who was pursuing a PhD in 1901 before people were born. So you can imagine what she had to navigate to get to this level. I don't think anybody is asking for her to be treated differently. I think she's rather what the NDC has done by laying down the gauntlet is to say, bring it on. I think that is what they've done. And if you look at the discussions on the streets and in the media space and all that, it's so unique that it is not even your usual that people would respond to. They are new to people are really looking for things to talk about. And that is why I'm saying the ruling party's responses are not being very coordinated and they are not coherent. They need to really come out and give them a good run for their money. If they are going to go about it like this, talk about things that we all know, who are you going to sway? She brings a new appeal. We haven't seen it before. Let's just make it. We haven't seen it before. It's a new appeal. Now, how does that make your opponent discomfort? How does that cause your opponent discomfort? They are already pursuing that. People are busy talking whether it's the woman and it's not. They are already on with it. The campaign has started for them because they are dictating the agenda, so to speak. We have worked on dismantling patriarchy for a long time. We have been in classrooms where you have women even trying not to be top of the class because if you do that, you lose all friends. People look at you differently. People think being intelligent sometimes can even hold you back from a lot of. I think, this person, if she can, she'll come and say this, and then people hold back. It's held a lot of people back. This is one case where we think we are going to motivate her. When you look at what she has been able to achieve, then you realize that, what you have in your coconut, you haven't even done anything yet. If another woman at this level, this is what she's been able to achieve over her lifetime, then you haven't done anything as a woman. And even men, it's an impression for everybody. Because there are people that we know, even with their BECE certificate, my brother, they can still relate to her and get her to listen and be somebody that is opening. Because listening has become a very rare, tool in a lot of governors over the years. They talk at us. All these politicians, they talk at us. They don't listen. They talk at you, and then when you talk, you are the bad one. So if we are thinking that this new appeal is going to be somebody who will listen to us, who will be able to deliberate issues with us and all that, that is what is. Nobody is asking for any, extra handling or whatever. And indeed, the interesting thing is that for the party she represents, I am sure the have a good number of people who can give the responses if indeed their opponents have any to throw at them. So for those of us who are not in like the politician space, so to speak for her politics, we are only looking at what she brings to the campaign, how she's going to be able to help her candidate, and how her candidature is going to change the way we debate our issues. When Dr. Bawumia was selected for the MP, indeed it was a new appeal. It was new. His candidature, the way he ran his campaign together with his wife, we hadn't seen anything like that before. That was new dynamics. And that was a tool that the ruling party used to be able to elect it into. We have another opportunity for another person who is also going to bring a new thing. So it is left with the ruling party to be able to withdraw and bring new things and bring, if indeed they want to change the course of the dynamic. Sometimes your opponent is able to influence your decision to also change your campaign a bit to be able to meet what they think that they are bringing on board. So that is what we want to see. We want to see a contest of political ideas and a good electioneering campaign. So those of us who are busy, ready to write articles and things, we are more excited. We are very excited at this new injection into the political space. And that is what I have to say about it.
Dr. Nansata Yakubu, very deep insights into that side of the conversation. I'll do one more round on this and then we will end the conversation. So Franklin, I'll start from Franklin, then I will come to Pius, calm down.
If you do that, you convolute the discussion.
Pius wants more time. Pius, you've had a bit of time.
No, I just want to go now so that we can, because you see, if you notice, you monitor the trend of conversation. Mm-hmm. I think that when I speak last, I'm compelled to respond to all the three issues. Yes. And it's difficult for me. So let me come in now.
One by one.
No, it's all right.
And then no problem. Let me just finish, Franklin, then I'll come. I know what to do with this particular matter. Your appeal has been heard, Honorable Pius Hajide. Franklin.
What do you want me to say again?
I'm
going to say, let me just say, I thought you had a more direct question for me.
Yes, I wanted to find out if you had. I do have a couple of direct questions for you.
Please do.
Yes. So there are those who've also said very limited time for somebody who's not considered an out-and-out politician. This is reflections of Bawumia 2008. Does she stick with who she is, or she has to make changes immediately?
I think that is a moot question because she's been a politician in a way. She was the Minister of Education. She's been in politics. She's been in university politics. In fact, in the university, the politics is not easy. I've heard references to the fact that she has a PhD in French and English, and probably sounds demeaning, but she wrote.
Demeaning?
So for her to have been very competitive at that level, it's also very important, and that's politics. I think the conversations, as Dr. Yakubu has adverted our minds to, should be based on what future, in fact, what vision of a country do we want to create post-2020? Because the pandemic has been upon us, and it has ravaged everything. This government has been doing quite well, of course, on the GDP sector, not the real sector, but the GDP had been stellar. 7.2 was expected, but it decimated to about 2%, possibly less than 2% by the end of the year. The Minister of Finance is planning a COVID-impaired budget very soon. So the dynamics has changed. Everything else that, as we knew, has changed. This politics of, focusing on non-essentials. In fact, the pandemic has taught us that we should be moving beyond non-essentials to defining the things that matter. What will matter for post-2020 or a Ghana? Are we going to do brick and mortar education policy? Are we going to do brick and mortar economic policy? Are we trying to take advantage of the... In fact, indeed, Professor Jenana Opukwajiman answered the question, I suspect, in Ontario. I don't know where the venue was. I think she was asked a question about education and the way somehow it's been taught, and the maths and science have been taught to the exclusive to the exclusivity of those who are being taught. And I think she made a profound statement that, look, if we were taught in the language that we understand, we probably will get the maths and the physics better than the way it is being taught right now. I must also add quickly that you also need the tools to be able to teach. As we speak now, the only reason why we are saying students should go back to school in the midst of a pandemic is because we haven't even invested in the technology to allow students to take advantage of 21st century modern thinking. The universities of the world, most universities of the world have postponed reopening to 2021, but there's still schooling going on. In fact, I've lost count of the number of the webinars I've been involved in. On a daily basis, I'm involved in about 2 or 3 webinars from all over the world, right? And I interface with all people that I never would have interfaced with because of technology. How are we rolling those things out? How are we building an economy that would withstand a potential political pandemic? Because we have political pandemics all the time. You see politicians doing something right, and next moment they introduce a unipass and destroy all the things Baumia has done, and all kinds of political pandemics. How do we avoid the rather ravaging effect of unsound public policy making, even if you have money? Those are the conversations I want to see going forward. This banter of, yes, we'll definitely put the candidature of the person into question. We should. But we should not lose sight of the fact that we need ideas. And where cometh ideas? But from sober, reflective minds. That is all we want to hear, right? And I see the candidature. I'm not swaying from the conversation. But you see, knowing Professor Jenana Pokwajima, she will not be drawn into this high-octane spin type of politics. I don't think it will serve her purpose well. But she's not been cultured for it. So she wouldn't even dare to get into that type of politics. If anybody wants to define the politics in that light, they are on their own. I think it's important to start asking the good professor, what exactly are you going to bring to the table in terms of the future, the vision you want to create for a country beyond 2020? It's a good question the NDC itself needs to start asking themselves and start answering. And we certainly are interested in those type of ideas because, you see, we are not doing these things because it's the sole preserve of anybody to dish out development to us. We don't deserve to be dished out development to. We deserve to be partakers in the cost of development. And if there are any characters who have had opportunity to do that, I think Baumia has done that as well. He's received his due. But it looks as if there's a fresh air blowing. And I think it's better anybody who is criticizing the professor and the candidature to start asking serious questions about what future we want to build for our country. I'm not interested. I'm not happy that school children are still at home, even though I'm now beginning to think that it's better to homeschool them than to put them through the atrocious learning environment that we have in our countries. But it's a new normal that we need to build. That new normal demands that you bring ideas to the table. I hope Professor Jenana Pokwajima is ready, because that's the argument we as civil society people, we want to see have. And I hope that the current presidency is also quite ready. Indeed, I'm sure they are ready, but they should rely less on the potential negatives, because you see, across board, if you did the polling right now, all the polls will not tell you that it's good to attack her or for certain things she probably must have said or done or anything. Question is, how do we move forward? I mean, there's some constant issues around change that is actually important. I want the NPP to define this election based on what future. I mean, they can say we built a future that is good for Ghana. We were building on our way. All of a sudden, the pandemic appeared. Focus on the pandemic. How would President Mahama handle a pandemic situation? How would Professor Jenana suggest and help in that particular discourse? Those are the conversations we want to have. I'm not interested in the high octane spin because it's not served us in a good purpose.
Africa. I'll come back to Honorable Pius and Ajide, and then I will end this conversation with Nikpa Samuel. After that, we can talk about the voter registration exercise. So, Dr. Nansata Yakubu, thank you very much for spending time with us on this segment of the show. So, I will continue from here with Franklin, Nikpa Samuel, and Dr. Nansata. We look forward to having you once again.
Thank you. I will be here.
All right, then. Pleasure as always. So, Pius, you can now address the issues you wanted. You have the next 6 minutes.
Well, thank you very much. Clearly, there are people who are excited about Professor Jane's nomination. Some may have relational reasons, and people may have their various reasons. And so it is quite clear. But what I find rather surprising is the subtle suggestion that for somebody who seeks to occupy the high office of vice president, her previous public life should be insulated from interrogation.
Has somebody said that?
Well, I have been listening, and I get that impression.
No, I don't think it's a fair impression.
But it is not your impression that you are getting. And if you just may allow me to proceed the way you allowed my other colleagues on Zoom to also proceed.
I always allow you.
But I'm explaining to you an impression I got, and you're saying you didn't get that impression. But I got it.
Okay.
And I'm saying to you again that I have listened, the impression I get. Because all we have sought to do, which has come under radar and some amount of condemnation, is to attempt to interrogate her record. We are now being told that we should move away from that and speak about what it is that we are going to do. As though what happened last week was the launch of a manifesto and not the introduction of a running mate. What happened last week was the introduction of a running mate to the high office of the vice president. And I'm saying that, coupled with that unfortunate invitation that no, don't go close to that discussion, is to further make it worse by suggesting that an attempt to do that is an attack on womanhood. And to then suggest that it is high-octane political discourse and that we are looking for something new. What can be more useful in our politics than interrogating the track record of persons who have been in public service so that the promises they give us, we can make a determination to their believability or not? If we don't do that, politicians will come and throw sweet words at us. But we will not be in the position to whether be able to make a determination, are they able to do this or not? Because it is only their track records that can suggest to us, oh, these promises they are making, they indeed can keep it.
Yeah.
So if somebody who failed at implementing free SHS.
In your estimation?
Oh, yes, but I'm speaking everything in my estimation. You don't need to remind me, my brother. In my estimation, somebody who failed at implementing free SHS.
Free SHS.
Progressively free.
Comes to promise free university education. We should then focus our discussion on free university education and an attempt to suggest that no, your track record doesn't support the assertion that you have capacity to do this. Then you say that no, that is high octane politics, and that it is undesirable.
Is it not the manner of that conversation?
Now we were proceeding. If you allowed for people to stop the interactions, then the voices will not go high.
I'm the host. Okay? I can interact.
So, but you,
I haven't said a word.
But they talked about, is it not the manner in which, until any interactions, no escalation comes. You understand? So we are dealing with the issues, and for me, you see, especially for my good sister, I think that the MPP did the right thing by first of all congratulating the good professor on her nomination and proceeded to establish that, no, but hold on, given your time at the education ministry, you failed woefully. And that you failed not necessarily because you may have been a woman, or not necessarily because you are a professor or not, but because the man under whom you were working had no sense of direction. And that's why you lost. That's why you failed. And you are going to partner the same man. So we are not too sure if you are able to succeed now, I do not find anything insulting, demeaning, and high octane, or something that we have to move away from it to a so-called new kind of politics. If we are looking for a new kind of politics, I think that it is that which His Excellency Nana Akufo-Addo and Dr. Bawumia have introduced into this country that is desirable. Analysis of facts, data, and moving the politics from insults to the issues. And that is why when I suggested that I find that the NDC wants to move away from the economic discussions and get into another area, and they chose education. If you say to me that then I am playing to their strength, then I'm sorry, but you have a different understanding of politics and I have a different understanding of politics. I just said to you that even the area that the NDC may want to find solace in is actually their actual skills. That's where they failed the most. But that's not all we are going to be talking about.
Okay.
And I said to you here that everything else is a function of the economy. Somebody spoke of transformation. Of course, we are the ones who are doing the digitization in this country. Today, COVID-19 has justified the vision of these establishments to move towards digitization. Today, COVID-19 has justified our vision of industrialization. The one district, one factory. As we speak now, there are several factories across this country that are producing stuff that hitherto were not being produced in this country. And the fact that COVID-19 has come to expose...
They were set up under the 1D1, eh?
Yes.
What are they producing?
Ekumfi. You see pineapple juice. You go to Gomuafete. You see Casa de Ropa. From sweet potato, they are producing pastries.
No, I thought you said they were linked with the COVID.
No, I'm saying that COVID-19 has exposed, has further highlighted the vision to begin industrialization, even though light.
All right.
You understand?
All right.
Today, if you go to Insawan prisons, under 1D1F, we are producing toilet roll and tissue in the prison.
Yeah.
We are going to talk about the development in agriculture that we have started embarking on under the policy vehicle of planting for food and jobs.
All right, Pius, your time is up.
It cannot be true that the MPP is fidgeting and that the NDC is determining the pace and that the MPP is speaking more about Professor Nana Jane than the NDC. That's not true. I don't know what data people are looking at.
All right.
You invited us to discuss Professor Nana Jane. I didn't bring the topic here. And I was only reacting to some of the things that my brother Nick Waku said.
Your point is made. Your point is made, Pius. Thank you very much. We'll take a quick break on the big issue. When we return, Nick Waku will also wrap up, and then we'll enter the. We are done. We are done. We are done on this one.
Please play the tape.
Comprehensive news. Your City Newsroom at 8 p.m. on City TV is your most engaging news bulletin on TV.
It's a very that's too bad. The youth are still throwing stones. They are still throwing stones here into our direction. And can I come in? I want to come in. Okay.
Telling your stories better with correspondents covering every corner of the country.
Getting access to potable water is a daily struggle for residents of Kakichekopi and Balekopi communities in the Ada East district of the Greater Accra region.
City Newsroom at 8 p.m. Very fluent with issues that concern you.
It is quite a car for Mr. Rabbi. Someone is here, bread. You told you kind of a 1 week. What do you say?
Is it unfair? What all this? What all this? We are dying! We are dying! We are dying for talk!
With City Newsroom, your community is now connected.
In this our community, all of us we are very sorry about this school. If we went and see the children, they are so small, even my grandchildren are there, my grandsons are there. If they come out from the school, how would this?
Every day at 8 p.m., City Newsroom is live on City TV.
I have a surprise for you.
I love surprises.
You know that in every hike, the most important thing is the snacks. So I brought you, especially from Israel, 4 samples of snacks, Israeli snacks, and we're going to try here.
Okay.
This is one. I'll take them all. Let's put them here.
Okay.
This one is called Beasley.
Beasley. Okay. What's
it
it made
means
of?
it means my bite.
My bite.
Okay.
Beasley.
Yes. I feel alive when I'm in nature. Really, I feel that that I connect more to the country, and I understand the country more because you know, in Israel, history and Bible are all around. I was born 1 kilometer from the Jordan River. I'll sing one sentence and then you'll sing after me.
Okay.
Hallelujah, la'olam.
Hallelujah, la'olam.
Welcome back to the big issue. We're going to wrap up the conversation on the announcement and selection of Professor Jane Anopo-Boafo as running mate for the NDC come the December elections, and then we'll talk about the voter registration exercise and another writ of summons. We had a lot of court cases before. Now during we're having court cases.
We had more. 3 days even before the election, we were still in court.
We'll discuss that and the registration of senior high school students as well by the EC and DC saying it's illegal because it should have been gazetted, and quite a few issues there. Basically, we'll take a look at the second week of the voter registration exercise in the next hour or so before we wrap up doing the show with Nikwapo Samuado, legal practitioner, also a member of the NDC. The Honorable Pazana Majide is Deputy Information Minister, a regular on our show. Always happy to have Pius. And messages have come in, as usual, via WhatsApp line 0549 998 0549 986 996, sorry, 0549 986 996 and 0550 585832. And a couple of messages that have come in. This comes from Obatampa Frances Erebna Isiem, CEO of the Ghana Cylinder Manufacturing Company. Please tell Nipapo to spare. Yes, the NDC never considered me a woman when they whipped me with horse whips and the like. They justified it and said I was disrespectful and called me a witch. The choice of Professor Jane Anopo-Boafo is just tokenism, which is against the gender agenda. It is not as novel as when Her Excellency Nana Agyemang Kunedu stood for president. ONDC give us a break and rather tutor JDM to give us a social contract. This is coming from Madame Frances Esiem. A couple more messages coming in. Then Anaba Omia Ticket has lost 2 elections already in the past, and they're on their way to a 3rd defeat. Professor Jane is a sign of inclusive democracy, respect for women, competence, and above all motherly care for Ghanaians. Let us say goodbye to the NPP government. This coming from Musa from Nima. And let's see. I feel okay, Pius. This one says Pius is talking about track record. I am saddened Of course, I also want to talk about his track record as Deputy Sports Minister. There's somebody who's very upset with Pius this morning.
No, it's fair.
Kupali.
It's just that I'm not the running mate yet.
Kupali from Kupali, I hope I'm pronouncing that from Kaswa, says the MPP has 169 parliamentarians with 24 as women, and the NDC has 106 with 23 as women. The ratio is 14% for MPP and 21% for the NDC.
What kind of mathematics is this?
Well, it depends on how you want to kill the mathematics.
Exactly.
This is Prince Henry from Koforidua says, good morning, Godfred. The question we should be asking Professor Jenano about her appointment as the running mate is, okay, I can say the MPP will be causing more harm to themselves and their supporters if they decide to attack her personality and not her records as public servant. I guess that is the point Pius is also making, that you cannot prevent them from attacking her record in the public service.
And that we shall never attack her personality.
Okay. The good thing about Professor Jane Nano Pokwa is that since her name came up, no one has talked about corruption. Even though as a Vice Chancellor, Minister of State, she was in the position to make big procurement decisions. Inshallah, nothing is stopping John Mahama. And another one has come in. So keep sending the messages and I'll read them. Like I also said, keep them language civil. And we will get on just fine. In fact, let me just take a few more from Twitter before Nikwaku also comes in. Let's see what are... Okay, so... And Stephen Nasebodi says, forget about roots and corruption. COVID-19 and education will determine the winner of the 2020 elections in Ghana. And... I think Mark Jordan has also sent in a message. Prince Henry Kofonde says the message we should be asking Professor Jenana point. Prince Henry, I can't understand what you're saying. So please let the language be a bit clear. Okay. So Franklin is just about departing. So okay, Nikwaku, let me hear you, and then I'll take the final word from Franklin, because I've already had Franklin on the second round. So let me hear from you, and then we can close this chapter completely so Franklin can leave, and then it will be Nikwaku and Pius.
Okay. So let me quickly address a few things that my good friend said.
You have 6 minutes.
Yes. I think we should take note of the language again of the MPP. I think the language of the MPP is important. Pius sitting here says that the decision to appoint Professor Nana Jane is not worth it. He says that she brings little value to whatever it is that we are. You see, that is the language.
That was not, he was paraphrasing what
that was his language. He says
the communications director said.
No, that's he said. Well, anyway, that's the language. I mean, and that for me is significant. Now, if you look at
so I should say it is worth it.
You understand? No, see, I'm not saying
it doesn't bring
he's interjected. I'm taking my time. Because I never said a word where he said. Thank you very much. Then it is important that we also note that a confidant of the current president, Mr. Godfred Akoto, indicated on a Facebook page post when the SGG thing came out that the president had considered Madame Alima as a potential vice presidential candidate sometime back. You understand? You remember?
Yes.
Okay. Now, why did he back out of that decision? Because of the opposition that when he considered that name, the opposition that he had within the party.
Was that part of Gabi's tweet? That is what you...
Yeah, he said it was rejected. That's part of his tweet.
No, I'm saying, did Gabi explain the reasons?
He explained it. He said that when the decision was, when he thought about making her the nominee in terms of the running mates, he faced opposition within. In fact, the opposition came from the female... Part of the opposition came from the female.
This is in Gabi's post.
Oh, let's go back, please. It's very simple. It is there.
So you're attributing this to Gabi Asare?
Oh, I am.
Okay.
And I'm saying that the reason, the fact, and what, even if I want to even be just at the basic, the point is, no, I say if I even want to leave it at the basics.
You are amending.
I'm not amending.
You are amending.
No, I'm not amending.
You are amending.
He said exactly. So I'm just
quiet for you.
The point is, at one point in time, the current president considered having a female running mate. You understand? He ran away from the decision. You understand? He ran away from the decision. But in this case, ex-President John Mahama, even in the face of opposition, as was the same with our current president, made the decision. Who is more decisive? This is what we call visionary.
It's a matter of timing.
But why? You see, the thing is this.
He said there was opposition.
He says that.
Did he say there was opposition?
There was opposition, and I'll show you where the opposition came from. If you give me time, I'm not going to be sidetracked by you. I'm not going to be sidetracked by you. Now, this issue about Muntie 3 and the fact that and again, you see, it speaks to, you see, what I always say, if you ever get schooled in gender studies, it is very important because it helps you to understand what it is that the feminists and those who are advocating for affirmative.
Muntie 3 was quite straightforward.
No, I'm coming. Why should it be that when a woman of almost 67 years as it is makes a decision that I am going to sign a petition for clemency. You understand? I'm signing a petition for clemency. She must necessarily think the way Pius wants her to think, that it is not her right as an accomplished academic and a woman in her own right of 30 years teaching experience. 30 years. At the time when she was vice chancellor, he was a student in her school. In her own right, she makes a decision that this is what I believe in, that clemency, I have to go for clemency. I'm signing a petition, not against the conviction, you understand, not against the conviction of the persons, but that the president should exercise his prerogative powers to remit the sentence. So they said, that's the sad part. You can't change the facts.
Because she's 69 years, we can't discuss it.
This is how it goes. I was very nice to him, and he goes on this way.
Okay. I am listening to you.
Now, what are the facts that ended up in that matter? The people saved time. You understand? Then someone says, oh, there's a petition. I am going to sign because I think that the sentence is harsh, and therefore the president should exercise his prerogative of mercy. And you say that because she has acted this way, you don't understand, and that she couldn't have had the right to think in a particular way and act in a particular way. That's a chauvinism.
No, we are precluded. We are precluded.
I'm coming. I am the same argument he makes. And then when he proceeds and I proceed, you say, oh,
the two of you cannot prevent me from interrogating you.
Let me just go on. It's a side issue. Let me go on. Let me proceed.
Allow the host to interrogate you.
Let me proceed. Now you see,
go on.
You must also take into account what is the role of the VP or the potential vice president. I think that when someone says she must set an agenda and you need to understand the role of the VP. The vice presidential candidate is assigned responsibilities by the president.
Just like a
you don't have a vision of your own. You carry the party's manifesto.
Oh, you are?
You understand? You carry the party's manifesto. This is basic.
Bringing over.
You carry the party's manifesto.
The value is
and
the same.
Then,
please.
Oh, I'll come to him. Don't worry.
Don't come to him. Focus.
You carry a party's manifesto. It's the presidential candidate that assigns you the thematic areas for you to then what? Proceed. So that's why in our architecture you have a situation where the president will say, oh, you are the chairman of the police council, chairman of the what do you call it, the armed forces council when you win. So it is for, and that is the good thing, that Professor Nana in the coming days would be assigned her role and her duties within the party architecture in terms of what it is that the president wants her to articulate as the vice presidential candidate, thematic areas that she will be leading, and she will, at the appropriate time, be seen to be moving in that direction. That is the role of a vice presidential candidate. A vice presidential candidate is not one that comes in and decides, I want to do this, I want to do that, I want to do that. Vice President Bawumia does not get up and start taking initiative on his own. He's assigned responsibilities and then he proceeds. That is how our architecture works. You don't rock. A vice presidential candidate has not come to have initiatives of your own.
Yeah, but this one was assigned.
Now, let's get into this issue of the educational and of the issue of chalks. At least the records are there. and then we deal with this issue of this chalk business. The information available to me indicates that there was over 5 million pieces of chalks, comprising of 4.9 boxes of white chalk and 180,000 boxes of colored chalk. You understand? Distributed during her tenure of office. The records are there. If 5 million.
So why did that school not have chalk?
Oh, of course. If a school does not have chalk, and the then vice president's wife, and she has explained this over and over and over again.
Certainly.
And so I do not need, and I will not be pushed into going into an explanation that is available.
But it is also not wrong to attribute that lack of resources to the supervising ministry.
Oh, if a ministry, if a particular district has not requested at their district, because the GES works within a structure.
Okay.
If a school has failed to make a requisition, and that therefore they don't have available something at that particular moment, and a headmistress had made an appeal at a donation by the then vice president's wife's when she came to donate computers, and she says that, look, in that particular day, she felt that they should have gone to the appropriate, because she doesn't believe, she's an educationist. She thinks that what they should have done was to go to the nearest district directorate of the GES to make their requisition, because that's how the structure is. And she made a comment, and she even came back to apologize for it. You said that somebody sitting in Accra, so as we sit here today, there's no school in Ghana that does not have chalk if the schools were run.
Well,
it is an outrageous.
There might be a situation like that, but you see, what happens is once a camera is pointed at the situation, it then becomes an issue.
Of course.
So, for instance, we made schools under trees. There are still schools under trees.
Of course.
Okay, but it was pervasive at a point.
Of course.
So we pointed cameras at those to try to find a solution.
Of course.
At that point, we held somebody responsible.
Of course.
So if a certain school lacked chalk and it will not perhaps...
Has she run away from that? Has she said that she was not education
You are defending
minister?
it.
No, I'm saying that, look, when you make a comment that
we can accept there was a flaw and
all schools, of course, I'm saying that all schools did not have chalk. I'm giving you the statistics that schools had chalk.
Okay,
so let's deal with that and move on. Now you see, she had a track record.
You have a minute.
No, I'm coming. She has a track record as education minister, and I'm happy that today we are moving away from calling her names and other things and moving to the meat of the discussion, which is on her tenure as vice chancellor, as education minister, as head of various departments and all that. She taught, having taught 30 years in the school. What impact has she made? You understand? And that is where I think the conversation should be driven.
Right.
My last point is to do with saying that when your COVID response is being a confit pineapple.
No. He explained that point.
I'm coming. So when he says that. When he says that COVID, the economy is what is central, and that when the economy is running well, its response is with regard to the setting up of a coffee factory. I was not listening.
I sought clarification on the matter.
I'm just trying to make a point that you see. When the honourable minister says that indeed the government's ability to have responded to all the crises that we find ourselves in has to do with the way the economy has been well managed, and that everything revolves around
the economy. Yes.
This particular issue of COVID is the one issue that has exposed the complete bankruptcy.
We'll get to the point on it. Franklin Kujo.
But he's going to speak again.
Yes, no, because he's not part of the final part of the conversation. So, Franklin is departing from us. So, Franklin, quickly, your final thoughts on this matter, and then we can move to the voter registration exercise.
Well, I thought I've already made my comments.
All right, then that's fine. All right.
I just wanted to say something. I think the voter exercise could have been, the conversations about the NDC's protest could have been better handled. I think the EC could have simply called the parties ahead of the decision to amend the registration centers and then have this conversation.
But they did. Frankly, they did. There was an IPAC meeting.
But it was an abrupt IPAC meeting. And then before
the whole thing was an illegality.
And the NDC was ably represented.
Gentlemen,
the whole thing was illegality. We are in court.
Is not the best, especially when there's been all manner of hue and cry over the discretionary powers that the EC have been exercising. I think it was important that they do not, cloud anybody's judgment again. I mean, the mobile registration issues they may be useful, but if they are allowed to go on the frolic of their own, then it means they may just start behaving like Catholic bishops behave when people are sick. They visit them in their homes and give them communion. We don't want that type of registration process. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much, Franklin Kujo. And thank you very much for your time. He has another assignment, so he will be leaving us. So the next conversation will have Pius and Nick Pako. So we can talk about the voter registration exercise next. And the Electoral Commission has deployed registration officials to senior high schools across the country to capture eligible voters onto the new electoral roll. And the development comes after members of the public raised concerns about the exclusion of senior high school students from the ongoing voter registration exercise. Now, IPAC was informed about this on Thursday, which is July 9, 2020, and the exercise started the following day. Now, the NDC says the only reason government allowed final year students to resume school is just so that they could go through with the voter registration exercise. And that was the opinion of Mr. Elvis Efrie Ankra. And he says that they have uncovered government's grant scheme to influence the students to register. The Ghana Education Service has also spoken. They are warning the political parties to refrain from using school campuses for partisan politicking as the Electoral Commission begins voter registration exercise for students. So we'll hear from Cassandra Chumanpofu, who speaks for the Ghana Education Service, and then Elvis Efrie Ankra, who is Director of Elections for the NDC, on the said arrangements. And then I'll begin the conversation from Pius Enamhajide.
Ordinarily supports the idea of inclusivity in principle and would always welcome any move to enroll all eligible potential voters onto the register. However, we reiterate our position that the EC must at all times operate within its laws, its own laws. To this end, we remind the EC that according to CI 91, they are required to gazette a designated polling center for 21 days. In the absence of that, any so-called registration center, be it in a school or elsewhere, is illegal. It is true that the EC was quick to refer to their mandate as prescribed by CI 91, but they conveniently left out portions of the same CI that compels them to gazette for a defined number of days. We refer you, ladies and gentlemen, to Regulation 2, Paragraph 3 of the CI 91. And it states, and I quote, "The Commission shall at least 21 days before the first day of the national registration of voters inform political parties and the general public by publication in the Gazette of a place it designates as a registration center." Indeed, this is the law, and it's very clear, and it's in black and white, and it's not for fun that the EC is meant to gazette for 21 days. It's for specific reasons, so that political parties will know and citizens will know well in advance, so that they can put all measures and preparations in place. But lo and behold, they haven't done that. This is another demonstration of the chronic deceit of the Jane Mensah and Bosmarasari-led EC, even at this late hour. It has also come to our notice that the EC's mischief is also at work in another dangerous form across the nation. From a system put in place by our IT and election directorates, both at the national and regional levels and constituency levels, to collect registration figures, we have discovered that something fishy is definitely at play. For instance, whereas the actual registration figure recorded in the Offenso North constituency in the Ashanti region at the end of the first phase of registration stood at 869 persons, the EC reported 26,886, which indicated that a whopping 19,017 registrants had found their way onto the register being compiled. Similarly, in the Fija Sexual East District constituency, the EC diabolically reported 14,263 instead of the actual registration of 8,975, which was an addition of 5,288 registrants to those who actually registered.
We all know that they are now on campus, and we've asked them not to step out. We don't want students to be asking permission. We want to go and register. We want to do this. And that is why we have made that special arrangement for them. We've been in touch with the heads of secondary schools or senior high schools, and they are on campus. They are representing Director General in a way within their own jurisdiction. And so we expect that the head and the assistants, the teachers will all, ensure that the process is smooth and then we don't have any politicking on campus. In fact, that is not allowed. Already they know that such activities are not allowed on campus, and they have to ensure that this time too, nobody does that.
Okay, so that was Ms. Cassandra Chumampo for ending that particular report. So the senior high school students are being registered, but on Friday, late Friday, one citizen has gone to court over the registration of senior high school students, represented in court by David Ametepe. Basically, the point that he is making is that under
I thought it was NDC that went to court.
Yeah, the NDC that went to court.
Yes, the NDC.
Not one individual.
Okay, fine. So the NDC has gone to court. The particulars of the claim is that it is illegal and wrongful for the defendant to conduct registration at any place, including campuses of a senior high school, which was not contained in a gazette and notification in accordance with CI 91. A declaration that any such registration of voters, including students, that take place at any ungazetted and unpublished registration center, including senior high school campuses, is null and void and of no legal effect. An order excluding names of persons registered at those legal centers from the register of voters. An order for perpetual injunction restraining the defendant, whether by itself, officers, agents, or any other functionary personnel, from carrying out registration of voters in any senior high school or place not duly gazetted or published in accordance with the CI 91 as amended. Any other order or orders of the court shall deem fit to make, and then punitive cost. So basically, this is what the NDC is putting before the court. Liverpool, you have something to do with this particular matter. Well, the registration started yesterday anyway. It's still ongoing today.
Well,
why is the EC deriving the powers from when, according to you, what they are conducting is an illegality?
I think we should be clear what registration is ongoing. From the information I have gathered, since this thing was filed, what has been happening is they are linking the centers to already existing polling stations. So, for example, registration centers. So, for example, some schools already have been designated as registration centers. That's the law. I mean, the regulation, regulation 2.3 of CI 91, as amended, indicates the fact that you must give a 21-day notice and publish the designated polling or registration centers in the Gazette, so that parties know. The whole idea is that parties must know where the polling or registration centers are, so that they can appoint what? Agents. It is not possible for you to wait until the night before and then say that everyone should just go into a community and wherever you find any polling or registration center, just go and put your agents there. That cannot be. So all parties 21 days before have a clear idea of where the registration centers are, and then they appoint the party reps to go and represent the party. The EC is guided by law, and you cannot, unfortunately, circumvent the law to please or to suit a situation and say, oh, I'm acting because I have whatever concerns. You have to go by the law. So we are clear in our minds that you cannot call us on a Thursday and tell us that, well, because you have students in the schools haven't opened because of the COVID, that you would want those who are 18, you would want them to be registered in their various schools and then transfer the votes to wherever they reside afterwards. If you had that intention, then they should have been part and parcel of the Gazette notice that you had given before the election. So those schools that had already been designated as registration centers, we have no problem, because those are places that we already know that, and the registration has been going on in those places from the beginning. However, those that have been created as emergency registration centers because of the fact that there are students.
Do you have an idea about the number?
No, unfortunately, no. But we were on Thursday. We were told, and then the various PCs have been, and our various branches and constituencies at least have an idea of where those emergency registration centers would be, and so have put people there in the interim. But that does not mean that we are not going to challenge the said action. At least the reports I have had from some of our regional chairmen and our constituency reps indicate the fact that since we filed this, the EC has been assigning the registration centers that have been created in these schools which were not gazetted to existing polling centers, so that it is like the way they did the district registration centers. You know, the district offices necessarily traditionally have not been a registration center, but they give the reason that for old elderly people and for persons who have disability and other things, they should go to the registration, the district office, to go and register, and then they will link you to wherever police station you are going to vote at the election. So they are linking the existing polling registration centers to these schools, so that the registration would be deemed to have already been part and parcel of those ones that have been already gazetted. Well, that is an interesting response, I will say, administratively to our action. We'll leave it to the courts to determine. We have asked as part of the reliefs that if it is granted, then it means that those stations that were not gazetted and which have been created by virtue of the fact that the schools are running as at now because of the final year students, the names that will be on those lists should be excluded. And we have the records. I think it's similar to perhaps what you say the NHI situation. The courts have the power to exclude or to remove, or ask administrative body to remove names which, in its opinion, may have been illegally entered on the roll. So let the courts, and I think that it's healthy. Whenever you think that something is not correct, you go to court. If the court grants your relief, fine. If the court says we should abide by the decision that has been taken by the Electoral Commission, I think that is okay. That's the rule of the law. Rather than party agents and parties taking stones and cutlasses and confronting electoral officers and saying that we will not allow you to do this and do that. I think that going to court, and I don't think Pius will disagree that if I have a dispute with him, the only place we all have to go to is the court. So we've made our point to go to the courts, and I think that it's appropriate.
Okay. I will take a quick break, and then we can talk about this grand scheme your party claims it has uncovered, as we heard from the Director of Elections of the NDC, Mr. Elvis Efrianka. The Big Issue. Be right back.
About to change your Sunday night for the better.
Prophecy is not for useless things and loose, frivolous things. Prophecy is for weightier matters.
We'll bring you the most captivating guests
and explore the most amazing stories. Your way to stardom was really planned.
Calculated. It was falling in place.
I wanted like a specific future for myself. First, I'm gonna gain my popularity. Second, health must come from it. Like upside down like this.
You know it.
We will dazzle you with real life situations and examine mind-blowing topics.
Bobby says he can pay me. I want to show him cash. Good one.
So is that what it's about?
Oh yes, I'll prove to this guy. Cash.
Draw your swords. Deuteronomy 8:3. Charge.
Join me, Frema Binyami,
And me, Ato Kwamna, every Sunday at 7 p.m. on City TV. Are you ready?
Upside Down, every Sunday, 7 p.m. only on City TV.
Tune in to The Point of View this and every Monday and Wednesday at 9 p.m. as I, Bernard Avile, get the right guests, ask them relevant questions on issues that matter to you.
What is the funding that we need? Do we actually sit down and leave things as they are? Or should we get more funding so that we can change how we do business as usual?
Even if you think of geopolitics and geoeconomics, we are entering an age where China wants to build its own internet, and we are seeing a new arms race, a technological arms race.
To be honest with you, it's politics. There are different dynamics in politics. I'm sure some people didn't give anything, some people gave some. It depends on the people you're working with.
Remember, The Point of View is live every Monday and Wednesday at 9 p.m. only on City TV.
Point of View is powered by Airtel Tigo Extra. Even our bonus data doesn't expire. You the film? Dial *111# to activate now. Airtel Tigo. Life is simple.
Welcome back to the Big Show. I'll take your messages in a bit. So, quickly, we thought your party had gotten over this grand conspiracy of why we are having a voter registration exercise. After all, we are in week 2, looking at the EC's numbers, record numbers, 3.2 million people.
I think 3.4.
Yeah, registered.
Yes, that's after 9 days, if I'm mistaken.
Yes, everything seems to be going on well. They've added the senior schools, which have a problem with, obviously. But you see people say there's a grand conspiracy.
This is it. Every party on a daily basis gets the daily printout of registered voters. Now you know that there are registered voters, then there are people who have been challenged, you understand, who are set aside, the cards are not given, and then they go through an administrative hearing. We have collated certain figures, and we are saying that certain numbers that we have from our people on the ground are not consistent with what the EC has put out. And so we've put that information out. We expect a response from the EC because they have been reacting. In fact, normally when we put out some information within an hour, sometimes they normally will respond either on their Facebook handles or on their, and they'll hold a press conference. And I think that is always important because they keep engaging. As when we put out something, within an hour, they would respond. We put out issues with respect to persons who have had their cards, their dual, and they have even called the person to correct. There are things that they've not denied, they've taken remedial steps to correct. So far, I have not heard a word from the EC in respect to, and I think your producers can call them and ask them why they haven't reacted to this statement that our Director of Elections has put out. I think it's fair that we raise the issues, we raise it out there so that they will respond as well. And these things are verifiable. The data that comes from the regions, you understand, luckily, these are daily tallies. So if you walk into a constituency office of any EC and you ask for the daily tallies of every single day, you will get it. The parties are also keeping an independent account, and they will definitely do a reconciliation. So if there are discrepancies, we'll put it out there. And trust me, beyond putting it out there, if need be, we will go to court and challenge it.
So you admit there are discrepancies, but perhaps not a plan to... Because if you listen,
no, but you see, that's the whole thing that we are saying.
Sounds like
no, this is it.
Somebody has sat down.
I have had videos where persons in buses have been stopped in Asawase constituency. In Asawase, for example, students have been arrested from a particular school who made an attempt to go to a particular center, and I've still seen those videos. So it's not as if certain things are not happening. But the point is this: it is important that I think the reaction of the EC to the allegations that are made is very, very constructive. They must respond to the concerns of... You can't... The point is this: NDC cannot wait, and then on December 7th we'll be crying that, during the registration there were discrepancies in the figures. What would you be telling us? That when it happened, why didn't you raise it? So we are raising it now, and beyond just raising it, we will take administrative and legal steps. I can assure the party and its supporters and the EC that for every infraction that we see, we would engage them administratively, we will take them on legally to ensure that at the end of the day, if we have any complaints to make, we will only have to complain that, we either won, and we've won fairly, even against all the institutional and funny things that have gone on that we feel have been very systematic against us, or that we lost honorably. But we will not sit down and put our hands in our thighs and say that, everything is going on smoothly. No.
All right. Point 1 minute. Pius, your side has been very satisfied with what has been going on. At least the second week has not been as confrontational as the first week was.
Yeah, Akoto, my party has had some challenges, especially with the observance of the COVID-19 protocols. And we have continued to engage the Electoral Commission on ways to better the situation and to ensure a greater compliance with the COVID-19 protocols. And so we also do have some disagreements with the Electoral Commission from time to time. But unlike the NDC, we find constructive and productive ways to engage with a view to finding solutions. Now, on the earlier issue that you raised about the NDC going to court, the matter is indeed in court. And so I think that we should allow for the courts to do their job. And safe to note, however, that the NDC has been losing consistently in court over these matters. Because you see, Akoto, their reliefs are not grounded in law.
You are not lawyer.
I don't think you can say that.
That's why they lose. I mean, they lose. They lose.
You never lost a case in court.
Oh, my brother. The reason why you lose is that the relief is not grounded.
I mean, you don't have even the locals to be talking about legal opinions.
Legal opinion. Pass that one. I will.
It's not a question of legal opinion. It's a matter of common knowledge.
Don't scandalize the court.
It's a matter of
you have a monopoly over court. Don't go there.
Lawyer.
Don't go there.
Lawyer. I beg you, allow me to. Lawyer, allow me to make my point.
Everything is in.
This one is not rocket science. You don't need to be a lawyer to know. You go to court to seek a relief. The relief is not grounded.
Yeah, but the fact that it's not grounded does not mean that it is not grounded in law. That particular line is a problem.
Why? If it was grounded in law, they would have given you the relief.
It's simply the judge having a different legal opinion.
You went to God in 2016 about many things that you lost.
It's okay.
Did we say that you are not grounded in law?
Yeah.
Don't throw words around.
It's okay. It's okay. Let's go on.
Can I proceed now?
Please proceed.
Drink some water. I know it's a difficult moments for you, but drink water.
Difficult moments.
Very difficult. So their reliefs.
I see defeat in the face. Their reliefs is difficult.
Their reliefs are not grounded. Okay. The motivation is to derail the process. That's why consistently they keep losing. So I'm waiting for another defeat in the court. I see it coming. But I'll let the courts do their job.
You see it coming.
I see it coming. Yeah, I see it coming.
You can see it coming.
Yeah. I'm
reasonable. You are sitting somewhere.
I'm reasonable. I'm reasonable. I see
you are the court now, so you know what is happening.
It's okay.
But the man says he knows what is happening in the court.
So let's continue.
Prophetic.
Onupa.
If it's just a C-set, fine. Let's go on.
Yes, it's true. I hope Ghanaians are listening.
Relax. Ghanaians can see there are reasonable people in this country.
Yes.
We appreciate the issues.
Court decision before they come out.
You understand? So I'm saying that I see it coming.
Yes.
So I'm not perturbed. Let's allow it to play out in court. But you see, I'm scandalized as a youth. And I want the Ghanaian youth to take notice of the strategic move of the NDC to deny 1.3 million young men and women of this country their God-given right to vote.
What's the statistical basis of this?
Because there are 1.3 million students in
and all
school.
of them are 18 and above.
Yes.
Hey.
Assuming they are all of them are not. Even if it is just
350,000.
Even if it is just
and all of them are.
Even if it is just
I'm sorry.
Even if it is just two. The NDC is moving to disenfranchise these young men and women of this country.
They have
and this is their real. No, it's here.
They are saying that the legal basis.
Let me finish. A declaration that any such registration of voters, including students, that take place at any ungazetted and listen, and unpublished registration centers, including senior secondary schools, is not avoid and of no legal effect. Yes. Okay? Yes. So they are seeking to disenfranchise.
They are seeking to get the writing down.
There's no writing. You can't come to that. I'm saying that let's take note. Judicial notice.
And students are in school.
I mean, if you can relax, I beg you.
Go on.
I'm saying that we must take notice that the NDC is seeking to disenfranchise the youth of this country. Now, let me state for the records that no new registration centers are being opened, or the Electoral Commission has not opened any new registration or polling centers.
Even for the SS program.
And for that matter, there is no need for any gazette. It is a plain lack of understanding of our electoral processes, and I'm surprised that the NDC, after having participated in our processes for all these years, doesn't know this. No new centers are being created. The creation of a center means that there will be a specific code. It is the code that is announced and published and gazetted. That is not happening. What is happening is akin to going to a registration center, which originally will register under a mango tree in a school field like I do. In my registration center, traditionally we register and we vote under the mango tree in my primary school in my village. And then the clouds gather, and then the electoral officers decide that they will move the registration center into the church building.
Is that what is going on?
We were born yesterday.
What is happening is that when you design an electoral polling station, it covers a jurisdiction.
Okay.
It covers a jurisdiction. So it is just that there is a gentleman's agreement and understanding.
Gentleman's agreement.
Yes.
Sorry.
Yes. That the registration that we do under the mango tree here today, because of one or two reasons, maybe because the clouds have gathered. So let's move it from the mango tree and send it to the classroom here.
I do not think the scenarios are the same.
It is.
The scenarios are not.
I am saying to you that the electoral area, for instance, let me give you an example.
Okay.
If you go to Accra,
I'm trying to understand.
If you go to Accra Girls.
Okay.
Everybody who is in Accra Girls.
You mean the Accra Girls school?
The school.
There's a mango tree there.
Yeah. That Accra Girls school. If there were no polling center in that school originally, everybody in that place would move to maybe the nearby lorry station or something to register. So that is the code of that registration center. But everybody, all the students from that school, they would have moved to that registration center to register. So because we don't want the students to move from the school to the outskirts of the school, the police booth could even have been at the gate or the entrance of the school. So because we don't want the students to get out of the school and come to the gate, to the outside of the school and register, we have decided that let's open the gate, let's bring the registration center from outside of the school into the school. That's not the creation of a new police center. You understand? Now you see the picture.
I am trying to.
Now you see the picture. Again, let me even illustrate to you even further. That we have a registration booth here in this studio.
Okay.
We have a registration booth here in this studio. All the workers in City FM, this is where they would have registered. Okay? So somebody had to open the door, come in here and write their names.
Yeah.
For one reason or the other, we decide that we will move this registration center and put it in the corridor there, so that everybody comes to register. That is not a creation of another registration center. It is merely moving the physical location of the registration material and taking it to another location. And that's why I'm saying to you that it is very much akin to, and I've seen it happen severally, where there are registration centers, for instance, at a lorry station.
That is struggling.
No, if you don't understand the process, I'm taking time to educate you so that you can see what is happening.
The mango tree.
Okay? So there is no registration. And the argument about agents. So it means that the MPP agent who would have been here in this room, or the NDC agent who would have been under the mango tree, once the police center was moved into the classroom or the church, the agents go there. They don't stay here because there is no registration happening coterminously.
So they have a gentleman's agreement.
So this thing, that's what I'm saying to you, that look, why is IPAC even put together in the first place?
I'm coming. So
what is the reason for IPAC?
Are you suggesting, by analogy, you're suggesting that under the current restrictions that we have, where the EC has promised that what they will require in the schools, for instance, are agents, right? EC officers.
Correct.
And then the students to be registered.
Correct.
Listen.
Listen. You don't even understand the way, no, bro.
Are they opening the gates for outsiders to also enter?
No, because the registration will happen. The set that is moving into the school.
So hold on.
Yes.
So as at yesterday, you are saying that they would have moved certain polling stations from somewhere,
correct,
to the school.
So
the people who have not finished registering at the other place.
Those are the internal arrangements that have been made.
So people will be left behind.
No.
So that
The registration, even now, my registration center, my polling center, registration hasn't begun yet.
Yes.
This thing is being done in phases.
Yes.
So at my polling center, where I would register, it hasn't gotten to my 10 yet.
Yes.
But other people have begun registering.
It's in clusters.
What I'm saying is that when that one is done, people have registered there. The Electoral Commission will move there. Your argument is that, are we sure that everybody within that electoral zone who should have registered, are we sure that everybody has registered?
Look at the statement. That's another issue of transfer, voter transfer. Go to that part.
Calm down, it's okay.
What about the issue of voter transfer?
The voter transfer is another argument. It's not what we are talking about. It's not what is in question.
I understand where he's going. You go on.
You understand?
Yeah, I understand. You go.
So it only your question seeks to suggest that, okay, so this registration center that has now merely been moved
by
to another
agreement.
Are we sure that everybody within the catchment area has already written their name, because we would not allow outsiders to enter into the schools?
Yes.
I'm saying that's a fine question we can interrogate, but I'm not sure that the registration in the school. Listen, it's not. It doesn't. You don't understand what the illegality is.
You go on.
The illegality is the creation of a new police station.
You are so being unruly. Hold on.
It's becoming one too many.
Pius, you calm down. So your point
please put a list.
Don't worry. You are saying that the point you're making is that from your understanding of what is ongoing, the EC is not conducting registration at any place that has not been gazetted.
Yes.
Is that what you're saying?
They are not creating any new registration
all
centers.
The places that are being done are part of the Gazette.
That's right. So that's why they will carry the codes. The codes that have been published.
Okay.
So that's what it is. So this one about the electoral committee. Oh,
sorry,
this fourth issue of the NDC saying that they have some figures. They have tabulated their figures. And
they said there were discrepancies in certain places. They mentioned OT.
I will just,
but it's not new.
Let me just say it has come to our notice that the EC's mischief is also at work in another dangerous form across the nation. From a system put in place by our IT and elections directorates, both at the national and regional levels, to collect registration figures, we have discovered that something fishy is definitely at play. My question is that, is this the same IT and elections directorate that tabulated the 2016 election and put the NDC in a comfortable
way? It doesn't matter. Went to court. He said he was going unknown police stations. He said he was doing unknown police stations. He went to the Supreme Court to seek a relief that where the thing was not there.
Let me engage.
Sorry, you finished. My last one.
So my quick question to you, is it the same IT and elections directorate that tabulated the elections, the results, and put them in a comfortable way?
Could be,
that is doing the same tabulation.
But the point is, last week, for instance,
I'm saying that for me.
I respond to it.
Let the EC respond. Yes, and I agree with Nipako that if there are discrepancies you claim, let the EC respond. But let me quick education to Nipako.
You've been educating for 10 minutes.
When he said that, because he won't let me speak. When he won't let me
let him finish.
I'm not sure you have been part of the process. You have been doing legal arguments for the NDC. I'm not sure you have been on the ground. You see, when we went to court and we spoke about unknown registration centers, we were talking about registration centers that had codes.
Relax, I'll give you
that
what
codes.
I'll give you what I still believe that I don't want to use
okay. We went there with registration centers that had new codes.
How come it?
You understand? So that is the creation.
You know what exposed Dr. Bawumia at that time? When Chachu told him that, you said there are unknown polling agents, yet your presidential candidate signed letters appointing agents to those places. He was quiet. Then he was asked, so have you read the CI? What is the role of a polling agent? The tests are there. It's all on I'll ask people to go and look at the cross-examination of Dr. Bawumia by Chachu Chikata in respect of this. You know, at the end of the day, what he said? When he was told that, what is the definition of a polling agent? What was the definition of a polling agent? He was quickly said, oh, now a polling agents are exalted messengers, they are just observers. And
but what is the relevance of what is being said here?
This is not the first time we are talking about unknown police. You went to the Supreme Court.
But I'm saying to you,
it was dismissed.
Oh,
wrap up.
I am saying to you that even when we went to the Supreme Court with registration centers with new codes.
What new codes?
Now you are arguing that there were agents there.
Go to the cross-examination.
So this is becoming difficult
on this note.
But if you do this, I mean,
you've had all the time.
But you are even allowed my own time. You gave it to him right now, and then you said this note. This is unruly. I mean, this is below you. You see, today the centers that you are talking about, there are NDC agents in those centers.
You think we should leave you to do what you like?
But you are now saying, you are just saying that we went to court about code registration centers with new codes which were not gazetted, and even then your argument was that because our agents were there,
it was your vice president who was in the box.
Please, it was enough basis, even though yours was new creations with new codes. And these ones that are happening now are not new centers.
And Dr.
You are arguing that maybe this is what our colleagues in civil society call high octane. I'm not interested in this matter. It's pointless. It's useless. If you can't allow your colleague to talk,
by the time it's useless. You know the time is right.
No, I'm not. Please take the rest of the time. I can't enjoy this.
Ahmed Dako says, ask Pius if it will be appropriate for the EC to register Ghanaians in isolation centers and those in other countries.
Please go and watch Dr. Babia's cross-examination.
Lukulu Foga says Pius should also talk about Ghanaians who, due to marriage and work, are residents in Lome and Togo. So, quite a few more messages have come through, but I must say that big thank you to Pius Enamajide
to spoil an otherwise beautiful program.
Deputy Information Minister.
Why do NDC people behave like this?
For finding time.
After
appointing a woman, you are being a and also Franklin, who's the president of Imani Africa. Have a good weekend.
Okay.